Never waste a good crisis. And when it comes to the economic crisis, don't waste it when it can have a very positive impact.
You never want a serious crisis to go to waste.
The way we're going to win over the long term is not just militarily. We've got to win over hearts and minds. And what that means is we've got to invest in countries that have no educational infrastructure, have no means for young people to get ahead. We've got to give them a stake in creating the kind of world order that I think all of us would like to see.
Stay tuned for politics and religion.
Is an interesting incident that happened at the World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C. A person went there with a first-hand testimony. I got an unexpected history lesson. Because I'm a baby boomer, I was one of the youngest in the crowd. Most were the age of my parents, veterans of the greatest war, with their families, of course, referring to World War II, 52 million dead. It was a beautiful day, and people were smiling and happy to be there. Hundreds of us milled around the memorial, reading the inspiring words of Eisenhower and Truman that are engraved there. On the Pacific side of the memorial, a group of us gathered to read the words President Roosevelt used to announce the attack on Pearl Harbor. Yesterday, December 7, 1941, a date which will live in infamy, the United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked. One elderly woman read the words aloud. With confidence in our armed forces and with abounding determination of our people, we will gain the inevitable triumph. But as she read, she was suddenly turned angry. Wait a minute, she said. They left out the end of the quote. They left out the most important part. Roosevelt ended the message with, "So help us God." Her husband said, "You are probably right. We're not supposed to say things like that now." "I know I'm right," she insisted. "I remember the speech." The two looked dismayed, shook their heads sadly, and walked away. Now, this particular person thinking, as she observed the older couple, thinking that perhaps it's been 50 years ago since the speech, surely the lady has forgotten, went home, pulled out the book of her book club reading, Flags of Our Fathers by James Bradley. It's all about the battle at Iwo Jima. I haven't gotten too far in the book. So she went on to finally reach Roosevelt's speech. But right there it was on page 58. Roosevelt's speech to the nation ends in, "So help us God." But whoever the wise men were that put this quote out there for all Americans to remember, they didn't think it was appropriate to put, "So help us God." So they rewrote a little history. Now, it's not the only time that's happened. It is happening more and more. So what is really going on here? What's behind all this? What's making it happen? When I read this account, I immediately thought of Romans chapter 1, verse 24. It talks about, "Wherefore God gave them up to uncleanness through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves, who changed the truth of God into a lie and worshipped and served the creature more than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. For this cause," now here's why this has happened. "For this cause, God gave them up unto vile affections." There is such a thing as vile affections. "For even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature. And likewise also, the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burned in their lust one toward another. Men with men, working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error which was meet." Now listen to this. "And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a reprobate mind to do those things which are not convenient. It is no coincidence that just when we're seeing an escalation of homosexual awareness and the promotion of the homosexual lifestyle, we're also watching the effacing of national monuments and the rewriting of history to remove God from our consciousness. I mean, there's something wrong with this. When you alter the words of an American president in order to make his speech politically correct 50-some years later, why does that happen? They don't like to retain God in their knowledge, because when they retain God in their knowledge, they remember that he says that these are vile affections. These are unnatural lusts. These are wrong. So let's leave that out of our vocabulary. President Obama met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House this afternoon. Because of certain demands from Obama that Netanyahu has been unwilling to bow to, relations between Israel and the Obama administration have been less than ideal. It appears that some of those rifts have now been healed. We'll talk about what went on behind closed doors today on Politics and Religion.
Look, there are two things I don't discuss: politics and religion.
In my house, we don't talk about politics and we don't talk about religion.
I'll talk to you about anything except politics and religion.
I never talk about politics and religion.
Politics determines how we'll live here on earth. Religion determines how we'll live forever. I'm Irvin Baxter. I think it's time we talk about it.
I was recently on a website. I was thinking about signing up. I was interested in the subject matter. And I noticed there was somewhat of a discussion. I noticed there that it said there are two things we don't talk about here: politics and religion. And here we are 12 years after the beginning of Politics and Religion broadcast, and we're still talking about it. Why is it? Tell me, why is it that people say we don't talk about politics and we don't talk about religion? When politics determines how we live here on earth, religion determines